Hello and welcome to News Digest. Whether you are a working professional, too busy to sit and read through the Wall Street Journal, or someone who simply wants to be that smartest person in the room, you will find the upcoming 10 minutes well worth your investment. The sources for today's summary are the Wall Street Journal and Financial Times. Watch all the way through the end, and we'll provide a bullet point recap to help you retain the information throughout the day. With that said, let's dive in.
In March, representatives from 194 nations convened to address the threat of disease XA, an unidentified illness predicted to cause significant global harm, akin to or potentially worse than COVID-19. After 9 rounds of negotiations, an international pandemic treaty is being developed to prevent a recurrence of the mistakes made during the COVID-19 crisis. Disagreements persist, particularly between low-income nations pushing for greater health resource sharing and wealthier nations and pharmaceutical companies cautious of overreach. Geopolitical tensions and questions regarding the origin of COVID-19 further complicate negotiations. Despite challenges, World Health Organization Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus remains optimistic about reaching an agreement by May. The treaty aims to foster global cooperation in alert systems, data sharing, research, and resource distribution. It addresses concerns of sovereignty infringement by clarifying powers it will not grant the WHO. While discussions continue, there are calls to address the broader failures in pandemic response, emphasizing the need for collective action and international cooperation. Efforts to enhance pandemic preparedness, including infrastructure development and information sharing, face hurdles but underscore the urgency of addressing global health security.
Amazon sellers are increasingly facing the challenge of scam returns, where customers send back junk instead of the purchased items, causing financial losses and frustration. Despite Amazon's customer-centric policies prioritizing easy returns, merchants argue that these policies often favor buyers at the expense of sellers. The prevalence of return theft has strained the relationship between Amazon and its independent sellers, leading to contentious issues and legal disputes. Fraudulent returns, estimated to account for $101 billion in losses for retailers in 2023, have become a significant concern for the industry. Sellers report receiving various items, including used products, unrelated items, and even counterfeit goods, instead of the original purchases. While Amazon claims to invest in fraud detection and prevention, sellers believe more action is needed to address the issue effectively. Many merchants face challenges in recovering losses from scam returns due to the cumbersome and time-consuming process involved in filing claims with Amazon. Despite the growing problem, finding a balance between customer satisfaction and seller protection remains a complex challenge for Amazon as it continues to navigate the evolving landscape of e-commerce competition.
Home buying has become increasingly expensive due to historically high home prices and elevated mortgage rates, reaching levels not seen in over 30 years. The housing shortage is expected to sustain price increases, while hopes for significant drops in mortgage rates are dampened by forecasts predicting an average rate of 6.1% by the fourth quarter. Rising rates have prompted interest in strategies to lower mortgage costs. 3 such strategies include temporary mortgage buydowns, buying discount points, and assumable mortgages. Temporary buydowns involve reducing rates for a set period, typically funded by sellers or builders. Buying discount points entails paying upfront to lower interest rates for the life of the loan. Assumable mortgages allow buyers to take over sellers' existing loans, potentially offering substantial savings, though they're not widely available and may come with significant upfront costs.
Republican Victoria Spartz, the only U.S. lawmaker born in Ukraine, shares personal experiences of family tragedies amid the conflict but opposes the proposed $60 billion aid package for Kyiv, citing concerns about oversight and strategy. Despite witnessing atrocities, Spartz remains skeptical of additional assistance, reflecting GOP divisions over Ukraine aid. She emphasizes the need for a clear U.S. strategy and closer scrutiny of aid spending, advocating for loans instead of grants. Spartz's stance mirrors pressures faced by Republican incumbents nationwide. While initially a vocal supporter of Ukraine, she now prioritizes domestic issues and fiscal responsibility. Despite her influence being questioned due to her unpredictable approach, Spartz remains firm in her conservative stance. Facing a crowded GOP primary, her past aid vote for Ukraine becomes a focal point of criticism from opponents, highlighting the challenge she faces in retaining her seat. Despite her personal ties to Ukraine, Spartz's political trajectory underscores the complexities of navigating foreign policy and domestic priorities in a divided Congress.
To counter China's growing influence in the Pacific, the U.S. is leveraging its 40-year-old Coast Guard cutter, the Harriet Lane, after a $21 million overhaul. Transferred from the U.S. East Coast to the Pacific, the Harriet Lane represents the Biden administration's strategy to compete with China's expansion in the region. Despite plans for new modern ships facing delays and workforce shortages, the Coast Guard sees retrofitted vessels as a crucial asset. While China reinforces its Coast Guard presence, the Harriet Lane's role is not direct confrontation, but rather offering law enforcement support and training to Pacific Island nations. By deploying the Coast Guard, the U.S. aims to build closer relations with these nations, offering an alternative to Chinese influence. The presence of Coast Guard ships, considered softer than Navy vessels, is seen as advantageous for engaging smaller nations. However, challenges remain, including the aging fleet's maintenance issues and the need for congressional support for Coast Guard initiatives in the Pacific. Despite limitations, the Coast Guard's efforts highlight the U.S. commitment to countering Chinese maritime influence in the region.
The Apple Shortcuts app, often overlooked, proves immensely useful for automating tasks on iPhones since iOS 13. Users can create custom shortcuts tailored to their needs, streamlining daily activities like saving parking locations or getting directions to calendar events. Shortcuts string together actions from various apps, offering efficient workflows and endless possibilities. With pre-built shortcuts available in the app's gallery, users can expedite their routines further. Combining multiple actions within a single shortcut enhances versatility, enabling tasks like text translation or location-based automation. Shortcuts empower users to personalize their iPhone experience without requiring programming skills, enhancing productivity effortlessly.
U.S. institutional investors, particularly pension funds and endowments, are offloading their private equity holdings at discounts through the secondary market. Last year, 99% of these stakes were sold at or below net asset value, marking a significant increase from previous years. The trend is driven by a need to reduce exposure to illiquid assets and raise cash quickly, exacerbated by subdued exits through traditional avenues like stock listings and mergers. Public pension funds, previously drawn to private equity for high returns and perceived low risk, are now grappling with the importance of liquidity. Higher interest rates have devalued private equity portfolios, prompting investors to seek liquidity through secondary sales. Despite recent Fed signals of lower rates, discounts persist, compelling sellers to accept lower prices to unload illiquid assets swiftly. This shift underscores a reevaluation of private equity's role in investment portfolios.
The recent suspected Israeli airstrike on Iran's consulate in Damascus has left Iran grappling with retaliation options without escalating tensions. Iran's supreme leader previously vowed revenge for similar incidents, but now faces the challenge of responding effectively. The strike, targeting an Iranian diplomatic mission, has heightened regional hostilities, prompting Tehran to balance deterrence with avoiding broader conflict. Iranian officials weigh various options, including direct retaliation or delegating tasks to proxies like the Houthis. Israel is preparing for potential Iranian responses, raising regional tensions. Concerns about U.S. involvement linger, potentially reigniting attacks from Iraqi militias. Hezbollah, an Iranian ally, faces pressure to respond to Israeli strikes but risks further escalation. While some advocate for a firm response, others urge restraint, emphasizing strategic timing in Iran's retaliation. Overall, Iran aims to send a message without sparking a full-blown conflict.
Now, here is the recap. Pandemic treaty negotiations. Representatives from 194 nations are negotiating an international pandemic treaty to prevent a recurrence of COVID-19 mistakes, focusing on global cooperation, sovereignty, and resource distribution. Amazon seller scam returns. Amazon sellers are facing increasing losses due to scam returns, challenging Amazon's customer-centric policies and highlighting the need for improved fraud detection. Mortgage rate reduction strategies. Homebuyers are exploring strategies to lower mortgage costs amid historically high rates, including temporary buy-downs, discount points, and assumable mortgages. Ukrainian-American lawmakers aid skepticism. Republican Victoria Spartz opposes additional aid to Ukraine, citing concerns about oversight and strategy, reflecting GOP divisions and emphasizing fiscal responsibility. U.S. leveraging Coast Guard cutter against China. The U.S. is deploying a 40-year-old Coast Guard cutter in the Pacific to counter China's maritime expansion, focusing on law enforcement support and building relations with Pacific Island nations. The power of Apple Shortcuts. The Apple Shortcuts app offers users the ability to automate tasks on iPhones, enhancing productivity and personalization without programming skills. Secondary market trends in private equity. U.S. institutional investors are selling private equity stakes at discounts through the secondary market to reduce exposure to illiquid assets and raise cash quickly. Iran's response to consulate strike. Iran grapples with retaliatory options following a suspected Israeli airstrike on its consulate in Damascus, aiming to send a message without escalating tensions into a broader conflict.
If you found today's video helpful, please consider liking and subscribing to help me continue to provide you with the latest news.